Call the meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of public bodies at which business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Cedar Grove Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be advertised by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on bulletin boards in the district, published and/or transmitted to the Verona Cedar Grove Times and Star Ledger newspapers, filed with the township clerk, and posted on the district's website. May I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Burke? Here. Mr. Pavulovich?
Here.
Mr. Mandela?
Here.
Mrs. Dye? Here. And Mr. Sakala?
Here. Good evening. I'm going to open the meeting at this time to members of the public for comments for items that appear on the agenda. You're not on the agenda. Seeing,
No. We'll get to the end.
thank you. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. Good evening, members of the board.
How are you?
Evening.
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Featherman, Ms. Tavernier.
Evening.
Do you have any committee reports this evening?
I only have one. The Cedar Grove Rec Department is working on their summer and their pool, new fees and things to that effect, but nothing to report yet. So,
I attended the high school APT meeting last night. The talent show will be on February 25th at 7 p.m. And Oklahoma is 5 weeks away. And on March 5th, there will be a hoedown, dinner and square dancing event to raise money there. And there'll be 4 new classes at the high school next year. We have TV production, AP European History, Accounting 1, which will be a dual enrollment class with Fairleigh Dickinson University, and sports management with Syracuse University. So it's a great offering of
Turn
classes
college
for this
credits
year.
in those?
Yeah, so for FTU and SUPA, the students can opt to get the college credit, and it's at a significantly discounted rate. And so they'll leave high school with a college
Wow,
transcript.
that's great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mrs. Dye?
Yes, I attended the middle school FSA meeting on February 1st. A couple of things. This year's play is The Lion King Jr. There'll be an info meeting on March 7th, and auditions are March 22nd. May 26th is going to be Career Day for the 7th and 8th grade. The Student Faculty Challenge is going to be on March 21st. They're looking for donations for their concession stand. And TREPS is on March 6th at the high school.
Thank you. Any further committee reports? Okay. We have one board presentation this evening. The Science National Honor Society has a presentation for the board, so who's going to be speaking on behalf of?
Inquiring minds want to know.
Okay. Welcome. Step up to the microphone, please.
Okay, thank you for having us. I am Nick Murphy. I'm a science teacher over at the high school. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Science National Honor Society, and represented by all these guys standing behind me. An idea that we've been throwing around for about 3 years now. I could really never get it to take hold. However, I got some of these students showed a little bit more, interest and a little bit of drive to get this done this year. So I don't want to spend too much time. Everything that you see in here is what they did. They're putting this whole thing together, all the planning. So I'll turn it over to Jason Krasnow, who's the president of the Honor Society at the high school. Thank you.
So what we are effectively, asking for here is permission to build this structure that is going to be presented in this presentation right here. It's basically something called a cold frame, which is, suppose you could call it a miniature greenhouse that extends the growing season and makes it a little harder for pests to get at stuff. So we're actually building this for a real educational reason. That reason, in summary, is to make biology and science in general more accessible to the student body. And to anyone else who actually wants to use it, we're thinking of allowing others to use it. That's part of our plan to raise awareness. So that's in the mix too. Biology is more, I don't want to say it's generally more accessible, it's easier to do. Chemistry, physics generally require advanced equipment. This is an easy way to introduce people to the sciences, and it's cost effective compared to other types of equipment. And speaking of cost effective, we're looking at about $300 to $450 to build this. The costs are estimated from me looking up all the materials, adding up the materials, and finding this estimate. The main cost that amounts to about $170 or $180 of the total is a big Lexan sheet that is the roof. That's what actually lets the light in. That Lexan sheet is there to make the thing more durable, because if we put glass or acrylic, it might break, which would be bad. We looked into that. And if we have any extra costs, all school council has agreed to cover them. Very grateful for that.
You can click. No, here, I'll just do it. Hi, I'm Carolyn. I'm vice president. I'm a little sick, so bear with me. So our design of the box it'll be 2 planks in the front and then 3 in the back, so it'll slope up, allowing the light to get in. We will be bracing it on all sides, so it'll be sturdy. The Lexan roof will be, it's the best material, and it's also very cost effective. It'll be framed by 2x4 planks. It's based on this cold frame structure. It's not exactly like this, but this is what we got our idea from, and we enhanced it with help from our physics teacher, who assured us that it'll stay up. And so we modified the roof, and this is what it's gonna look like. I know it's a little rough, but it'll be 3 bars of wood, which prevent the Lexan from bending, because it's such a durable glass that it under the pressure of the snow it might bend, but with these 3 bars it'll stay up, nothing will break, and it'll be great. We're planning on putting it not there, but that's just a picture of the high school in the enclosed courtyard, which isn't really used in the high school, and to be honest doesn't look that great right now, but hopefully this will make it liven it up a little bit. It'll be, so the courtyard goes like this on an extreme slant, so we're going to put it at the top so none of the water drains in and excessively floods it, and that's where the most light will come from, and it's all planned out. We have a spot kind of near where we have some composting stuff going on already. And then...
Hi, I'm Henry Mackin. Right now I'm taking AP Biology, and I was talking to my teacher knowing about this project, and we were kind of talking about what we could really do with it as opposed to what we couldn't do before. And he kind of talked about this AP natural selection lab that we could do using plants and kind of which traits are going to survive better in the environment and how they react to different light levels depending on the time of day and the time of year. And it's just another level of education that we can reach if we kind of had these kind of resources that we're funding ourselves and that we're building ourselves. And it's just something that can expand on the science environment of the high school.
So hi, I'm Dylan Luke, and a lot of this green box effect is mostly centered around biology, but there's also a chemistry aspect that we can also implement into educational purposes of this green box. For example, chemistry usually envelops understanding molecules and the relationship of breaking and forming bonds, and obviously, we don't have the money to get equipment to measure the bonds and to actually visualize these bonds. But what plants do is they break these chemical bonds and form new molecules to release energy to sustain growth. And I believe that with this green box, we can use a more interactive means of, instead of just looking at pictures and just using math formulas to determine like the energy output of breaking down a molecule, we can actually implement it and show its purpose and almost the beauty of chemistry by showing this green box and having it open up to the chemistry classes out there.
Hello, I'm Justin Toby. The one last thing that we have to talk about is the timeline. So this is just about the most difficult part besides all the financing and the physical work. And what we're planning to do is to get started as soon as possible using once we get all the materials needed and when the weather allows us to start building, because none of us wants to build in the snow. So once we get started, we're planning on finishing around March and the April time zone. So that's just around spring, but it's not going to be too close towards around the AP exams, so students don't have to worry about that. And one of the things we were thinking about was on April 22nd, which is Earth Day, we were thinking about the possibility of allowing elementary school and maybe even middle school to partake in Earth Day activities at the greenhouse, which will also allow the education benefits to go down to the elementary and middle school level. So if worse comes to worse, and if these delays happen, because, well, following Murphy's Law, things like to go wrong, but hopefully everything will go correctly, and we'll plan to have it completed and running before the end of the year. Carolyn, would you like any finishing statements?
Yeah. So all we need from the board is your approval to build it. Well, we have the finances to fund it completely. We don't need any money. We just need your approval on building it. We have people to help us with the wood cutting so nobody gets hurt and all that stuff. Yeah, cut the muscles. And we really hope that you can approve this to assure us the ability to learn in a more interactive environment. So thank you for listening.
Well, thank you very much for everybody for coming, and you're showing great initiative, and this is something that, in Cedar Grove, that something we can be proud of from our students and our student body, and I think it's a great idea. And if the board has any comments, I'd like to hear them. Otherwise, I would like to after that, I'd like to put a motion on the table right now, because we don't have one on the agenda, to get this project approved immediately. So does anyone have any comments before I make that motion? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the green box project for the Science National Honor Society. Can I have a second?
Second. No doubt.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
You got it. Congratulations.
I'm sure they have more to do if you want to.
I just want to know
Sure.
exactly where it is.
And we'll give you guys a minute so you can go do your homework. And,
Keep it in the summertime.
I do like to
yeah, absolutely. You're dismissed. Okay, moving on the agenda. From the Office of the Business Administrator and Board Secretary, under minutes, may I have a motion for items B1 and B2? Item B1 is a motion to approve the public and executive minutes of January 26th, 2016. And B2 is a motion to approve the Board Secretary certification to the Cedar Grove Board of Education pursuant to the Administrative Code that no line item account has encumbrances and expenditures which exceed the line item appropriation in violation of the code. May I have a motion for those two items?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Mandela?
Aye.
Mr. Pavulovich?
Yes.
And Mr. Sakala?
Yes. Under business, may I have a motion for items B3 through B9? B3 is a motion to acknowledge that the Cedar Grove Board of Education requested and has reviewed quotes for the removal of 958 square feet of asbestos floor tile and mastic from the area set forth in that item, and be it resolved that we hereby appoint Lilich Corporation at a cost not to exceed $7,600. B4 is a motion to approve Ahira Consultants Incorporated to provide project oversight and management of the aforementioned removal of the tiles at a cost not to exceed $5,970. B5 is a motion to acknowledge that the Cedar Grove Board of Education requested and has removed quotes for the removal of 6,884 square feet of non-friable asbestos floor tile in the classroom set forth in that item. And be it resolved that we appoint Lilich Corporation to do that at a cost not to exceed $30,900. B6 is a motion to appoint Ahira Consultants Incorporated to provide project oversight and management for the aforementioned project in B5 for the removal of the asbestos floor tile, and that will be at a cost for not to exceed $7,630. B7 is a motion to acknowledge that the Cedar Grove Board of Education requested and has reviewed quotes for the installation of 6,884 square feet of VCT floor tile in the classrooms as set forth in that item, and be it resolved that we appoint East Coast Interior to do that work at a cost not to exceed $26,715. B8 is a motion to approve the interfund transfer in the amount of $250,000 from the Cedar Grove Board of Education Capital Reserve Account to the Cedar Grove Board of Education Capital Projects Account. This transfer is for the payment of purchase order obligations that are payable prior to the receipt of the short-term note financing that is expected to be received March of 2016. And B9 is a motion to retroactively approve on first reading the proposal to allow the qualified wrestlers from the Cedar Grove to attend the NJSIAA Individual Wrestling State Championships in Atlantic City, as set forth in that item, in accordance with the cost for travel lodging as set forth therein. May I have a motion for those items, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question just on making not that I'm questioning to do this. On B9, is that above the budget? Is that not in a budget line item? And are we allowed as a board to pay for that? That's something it's okay for us to do?
Yes, we have that budgeted for, Mr. Gogarty. Year over year, we plan for that to happen.
Oh, great.
We always have.
No, I don't remember. That's why I was just asking. I thought it was just something that was automatically done. I didn't know we actually approve it as a motion. That's great. No, I just wanted to make sure we were okay.
Absolutely.
That's it. Good. I'm good.
Any further question, comment? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Pavulovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mandela?
Aye.
And Mr. Sakala?
Yes. May I have a motion for items B10 through B12? B10 is a motion to approve the fourth quarter 2015 unemployment tax payment in the amount set forth therein. B11 is a motion to approve Cedar Grove Board of Education's participation in the Apple Direct Customer Agreement for purchasing of supplies, goods, and services for the remainder of the 2015-2016 school year. And B12 is a motion to incorporate the board goals. Let me read that again. Motion to incorporate the following into the Cedar Grove Board of Education's 2015-2016 district goals. And they are listed, I'm not going to read the entire item, but under number 1, student achievement for college and career readiness. Item 2, for facilities upgrade. And item 3, for communication. May I have a motion for those 3 items, please?
So moved?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Pavulovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mandela?
Aye.
And Mr. Sakala?
Yes. May I have a motion for items S1 through S4 under Personnel? S1 is a motion to affirm the superintendent's report on harassment, intimidation, and bullying from January 26, 2016. S2 is a motion to approve Sarah Lippman, assistant varsity softball coach at the step and salary stipend set forth therein. S3 is a motion to authorize the attendance at the events by the staff as set forth in that item. And S4 is a motion to approve the students set forth therein for classroom observation. May I have a motion for those items, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Pavulovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mandela?
Aye.
And Mr. Sakala?
Yes. Under curriculum, under S5, may I have a motion to approve the courses that are set forth in that item, that they have been revised and realigned to the CCSS for the 2015-2016 school year? May I have a motion for that item, please?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Mandela?
Aye.
Mr. Pavulovich?
Yes.
And Mr. Sakala?
Yes. Under contracts, may I have a motion for S6? S6 is a motion to approve the contract that's set forth in that item for special education students as recommended by the Director of Special Services.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Pavulovich?
Yes.
Mr. Mandela?
Aye.
And Mr. Sakala?
Yes. Okay, the meeting, now that the business is over, the meeting is open to the public for comments for items that are either on or off the agenda. Is there anybody wishing to be heard? Please step up to the microphone, state your name and address, please.
Good evening, board members. My name is Lorraine Gawley Rufo. I live at 78 Elmwood Road, and I've lived in Cedar Grove for 24 years, and I've had 4 children go through the high school. 1 is still there. I'm here today with the Cedar Grove baseball team, and our reason for being here is that our coach, our brand new coach, just informed us that we are not going to have a field this year. That basically because of the construction for the new football turf field that is going to be undergoing in, I think, beginning in April, that the baseball field is going to be shut down so that the construction people can have access to the football field. And from what we understand and what we've been told, the football field is going to be beautiful. It's going to be a turf field. It's going to benefit the school and the football team and the soccer team and the track team, but not the baseball field, but not the baseball team. And what we've been told is going to happen is that we're going to be shut down for the year. We're not going to have a home baseball field. And that when we reopen next year, after all the construction, that the baseball field will actually get new drainage. That's what we're going to get from all of this. So you can understand we're quite upset by this. We've also been told that there really is no good field for us to use in the interim. There is the middle school field, which many of our boys used as freshmen or in junior baseball, which is a horrible field for a high school team. It has no dugouts. And not to say that our baseball team dugouts are great. They're homemade by a baseball parent, but they are dugouts. And what we've been told also is that the JV and the freshmen will be relegated to South End. Now that is an atrocity. And even in junior baseball, teams would show up to South End and leave because of the state of that field. Quite frankly, we are really upset by this whole idea that this construction company, first of all, that the baseball field wasn't even taken into consideration in this whole thing that's going on with the field. Second of all, that there isn't a way that this construction can happen and leave our field intact so that we can have a season. We have plenty of boys who have aspirations to play in college. My son plays baseball in college. Many college coaches come to see boys. sometimes during the season it does happen. And to have this to have your varsity team have to play in something like the middle school is really outrageous. And we're here today to say something has to be done. And again, this is our understanding of the facts that have been relayed to us from our coach, who was unaware of it also until a few weeks ago. Basically, what we're saying is we want to determine how we can deal with the new construction and not lose our field for a year. And then come back to a field that, with a little bit of drainage, but let's face it, construction trucks are going to be over our field the entire time building this football field. It already has divots in it. I mean, I can't imagine what the field is going to be left like next year. So what we're asking for is some answers, I guess, or some solutions, too, to this issue, to see what can we do. You know, how did this happen? What can we do to avoid having to play? Someone said, we might have to play all of our games away. Well, you know what? That's happening in Verona for the baseball team, but the Verona baseball team is coming back after a year to a new turf field, the baseball team. That's not the case in Cedar Grove. So basically, that's our issue. We want to deal with it. We want to figure out a solution with the board, and we want to see what can be done to avoid what we're foreseeing is going to be this spring season, which is we can only see it as a nightmare right now. Thank you.
Before anybody, I don't know if there's anyone else who wants to make a comment about this, but let me just make say a couple of things, and I'm going to call on Mr. Gogarty, who's here to talk about what is the eventuality is going to be for the baseball team. Unfortunately, it's come to our understanding that it's unavoidable that we're not going to be able to use the baseball field this spring in light of the construction of the multi-purpose field. It's not a football field. It's a field for many students who play many different sports: football, lacrosse, soccer, track. I know that doesn't help you because it doesn't help baseball. But I can tell you this: you're not going to come back to a field filled with divots, a field that you can't play on, a field that is atrocious by any means. The field will not just be ready to play; it will be fit and ready to play. It's going to be a priority that we make sure when you come back to a field, your boys are going to have an excellent facility, excellent field to play on. Okay, I know there was one time even last year where fire trucks were riding on the baseball field, putting divots in the field. I mean, that's not going to happen once we get this construction out of the way. It's unavoidable because we're not just building a field; we're building a facility. We're building, it's going to take, the whole parking lot is going to be ripped out. There's going to be construction vehicles everywhere, and quite frankly, it's not going to be safe for you to go and watch your boys play. It's not going to be safe for your boys to play. So this is something that is, it recently came to our attention as well, and maybe we should have had a little more foresight and have been able to tell you about this sooner. But even if we did, it's not going to change what is going to happen in the spring. Now, what we need to do is we need to make sure that the baseball team is accommodated and taken care of. And there are many things being bandied about. I'm not privy to all of them. I'm privy to some of them. That's why I said Mr. Gogarty is here, and Mr. Featherman told me that he'd be happy to get up and speak about some of the plans. You may have mentioned some of them, but we want to do what's best. We don't want our baseball team to not have a season. That's not going to happen. They're going to have a season. And we want to do the best that we can under the circumstances that we have. So, Mr. Gogarty, can you talk a little bit as to what is in the works for the baseball team for this coming season?
If I could say a few words before Mr. Gogarty you could step up there, Rob, please. When we did our road show and we had meetings in every corner of this community, we were very honest with you. I was very honest with you that if you supported the referendum that we would not only thank you in advance, but we would apologize in advance. Why? Because of the great many sacrifices that everybody in this room and everybody in those other rooms we knew would have to endure. When you enter into the contract that we entered into with this community, the $14.8 million bond referendum, right? We all knew that it was the right thing to do, and you overwhelmingly supported that. What I'm a little disappointed in, and I'm expressing that now, is how quickly you've forgotten those conversations, those late nights we had together, talking about the sacrifices that we would all have to make to get to where we all want to be. Now, I've been in here 7 years now, and I have never made a decision or behaved in a way that would be disappointing or embarrassing to this community and to these kids, to the student athlete. Never will I let that happen. So, to ye of little faith, and I say that respectfully, give us some credit here. There's not a person in this room that has acted by commission or omission to let any of you down, not once. That baseball field, let's not brush aside, will have a completely new drainage pattern. You've complained about that since I've been here. How many in the room knows that that baseball field has a drainage problem? Raise your hand. This board has committed hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix that. Why do you sneeze at that? That field, we spent $20,000 last year to resurface the clay of that infield. That was phase one of what we've promised to the student athlete baseball player would be a quality field when the referendum's done. The clay is in place. The infield is strong. You had a great season last year. And when this is all said and done, you will have an entirely new drainage pattern at the cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars, along with a new concession stand, a new multi-purpose field, new track, new bleachers, new bathrooms, and so on and so forth. So you got to hang in there, folks. This is not going to be the easiest ride. We said that to you. I said that to you from the get-go. Mr. Gogarty, Mr. Mangili, myself, we lose sleep over this every week. And I'm not being dramatic. We talk about it almost every day. How we're going to work not to let the kids down. But as parents, I'm one of them with 2 kids that play sports. You've got to hang in with the process. We may play all of our games away. That may happen. Mr. Gogarty is reaching out to all of the area schools. You can't just play on their field, folks. They have freshman, JV, and varsity programs in baseball. When JV and varsity are home, their freshmen are away. And guess what happens when the freshmen are home, and vice versa, right? You know that. That's what happens with us, too. So their fields are basically taken 6 days a week. So we're looking at that as an option, playing all of our games on the road. But we knew that was an option. You had to know that that was an option. We're looking at what else we can do. Maybe we play some of our games at Verona. That's an option that's on the table right now. Verona has graciously offered to squeeze us into their field from time to time. Is it ideal? Does a Panther want to play where the Hillbillies play? Not really. I get that. I get it. But we knew this would happen. So, listen, I may be disappointed, but I'll get over it. That's what I do. I get over it. I have a very short memory that way. But you got to hang in there with us. The field's going to be awesome. There's not going to be any divots left. Will there be trucks driving on that field? All spring, all summer. There's going to be trucks. There's going to be maintenance equipment, people, you name it. It'll be dragged across your outfield. Guaranteed. I've been told so much already. But we're going to fix that. And in the end, you'll have an entirely new drainage pattern. And the field's going to look great. And if it doesn't, we're going to make sure that we're going to work until it is. That's our commitment. We said that to you a year and a half ago, and I'm saying it to you now, February 9th, 2016. This season's going to be tough. Ask your track athlete where he or she's going to be this spring. Not on their home court. Ask the people that work here over the summer where they're going to be. Not in their home building when their bathrooms are ripped apart, the asbestos is being removed. The inconveniences go from top to bottom. And so you gotta hang in there. Gotta hang in there. I'm asking you to hang in there. It's gonna be worth it. I know there's a question over here. I'd be happy, and then maybe Mr. Gogarty. Yeah.
Well, I think Mr. Featherman stole some of my thunder there a little bit. But I am working on a few solutions now, is really what it's about now. I'm working with Mr. Nelson. I'm working with our buildings and ground people. I'm working with Mr. Mangili. And really, we're down to 3 possible areas. One is to practice, obviously, at the middle school field. That's one of the only baseball fields in Cedar Grove. That's the best case scenario for practice. Now, varsity game-wise, we're talking about 3 possible solutions. One is to possibly play games at the middle school. All right, we've done our measurements. We've done that. The fence to left field or the woods to left field is 250 feet. I think we all agree that that's not really doable. All right, and if it is, there's going to be some games changed by pop-ups, by short fly balls, which could be considered home runs. The second option is to play all away games. You know, yes, it has been done before. I know that some schools are coming back to brand new fields and things like that. That's the other option. The third option is I did get, I have been reaching out to local high schools, local fields to see if we can play some of our home games there. Verona is willing to sit down with me, all right, to work on some schedules, see how many games we may be able to play there. They aren't playing all away games this year. They do have their field up till June. So that's one option. Passaic Valley I reached out to said that they have a lot of field problems now, all right, and they said no. So I'm 1 for 1. I'm 1 for 2. Another option is the West Essex field. I really don't want to travel 40 minutes to play a home game either. So all these solutions are being talked about with Coach Nelson. I'm obviously leaning on him for the best advice because I want him to have the advantage or tell me what's the advantage, what's the disadvantage of playing all the away games, playing at the middle school, playing at Verona, and things like that. So conversations are being had. We're trying to find the best case scenario for the 2016 season. And that's where we are now. And in the next week or two, we're going to really have to make that decision, pull that trigger and say, look, we're going to play our games at the middle school. Look, we're going to play our games all the way. Look, we're going to play 5 games at Verona, 5 games at West Essex. All right, so I think that's where we are now as far as coming up with the solutions.
Do you have so we know just a time, I know you just said a week or two, but do you have a time frame of when you're going to have this, so the team knows where they're going to be
I think
playing?
within the next two weeks, I do want to get a confirmation with Coach Nelson and say, look, I want you to go to Verona and West Essex and really use that option and things like that before I go and sit down with Glenn Cisa, who's willing to sit down with me and say, all right, we can play on these 6 dates and things like that, And we are looking into, we're just waiting for one more fence company to get back to us about the middle school field with pricing.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Featherman or Mr. Gogarty based on that? Anybody have any questions for either Mr. Gogarty or Mr. Featherman in the back?
Yeah, I'm sure it was already looked at, but is there any chance to delay construction by a month to get a few games of the home games out of the way? If you could just delay it short, obviously you're not gonna get the whole season, and as I said, I'm sure you looked at it, but was that taken under consideration?
Well, we had asked that, we had hoped that would be the case, but we talked to our architect and the engineer, and they're saying there's no way, given what they're tasked with, to get that complex done if we delay it the month of April. I mean, the sacrifice has to be made now so that the complex is ready for September. You know, that's the scenario. If we wait till May, then we finish in October. And then we impact spring, summer, and then the fall. So tough decisions had to have been made, and so we made the decisions we thought were best for getting the referendum done.
Yes.
So, since you said that it has to be ready by the football season, so the football team.
Well, it's
cross
football,
country-
right, soccer, right, it's not just football, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Panther Park is
okay.
an all-purpose field.
It
It's
is.
all the same things and it's still in Cedar Grove. It has all the bleachers, all the look of a home field.
Yes.
And it gives the people playing on it the feeling that they're playing at their home field. So why can't it get pushed back and let them play at Panther Park and let the baseball team have a season
Sure.
with home?
The answer, well, you can applaud, but the answer is that could have been the case. We made the decision not to go that route. Why? Well, because there was a choice to be made. Do you impact the spring, summer, and fall? Or do you sit down, as was always our intent, to have that complex done for the fall? And that was always the mission. And when we talked to the architect and the engineer, they said, we can accomplish that goal if we start the auditorium in March and the field complex the beginning of April. So we were all in on that option. So the other option was not chosen. That's the answer.
You didn't take baseball into consideration, because if you did, you'd have a plan like that. We don't have a plan.
I
It's
disagree.
February. It's
I
February.
patently disagree with that.
It's, you can disagree all
If you
want.
listen to my introductory
Where's your plan?
remarks, the plan's been laid out for a year and a
We
half.
don't know for a year and a half.
For a year and a half.
It's February, we don't know where we're playing.
Okay, well, in fairness, it's not just Cedar Grove that has the concern about where we're playing. It's the people that we're asking to accommodate us. So they've got to get their ducks in a row first for their
This
season.
wasn't part of your plan, a year and a half ago.
Listen, there's no reason arguing about what the plan is and what the plan isn't. Mr.
Certainly do
Gogarty,
have a plan.
Mr. Gogarty said that it's going to be another 2 to 3 weeks, and we're going to have something in place for the team. It's not in place now. You want to blame Mr. Featherman, you want to blame the board, you want to blame Mr. Gogarty. It doesn't make a difference, because assessing blame isn't what we need to do now. Right now, we need to find out where this baseball team is going to play in
Practice.
that's, I don't know
Right
why
now
you're
it's the
asking me
middle
that
school.
question. We have the athletic director here who's telling you that the plan is gonna be in place in a couple of weeks. So you're gonna have to wait a couple of weeks, and Mr. Gogarty will report back to the board, I'm sure to Mr. Nelson, Coach Nelson, about what's happening with the team.
This gentleman here had his hand up.
My name is Rich Williams, and I've been a resident of Cedar Grove for over 50 years.
Mr. Williams, I don't mean to interrupt you. If you have a quick question, you can ask him there, but if you want to make a statement, if you can just please step up to the microphone so we can get that on the
Thank you. Again, my name is Rich Williams. I've been a lifelong resident of Cedar Grove, and I've personally played on the baseball field at the high school in 1979.
And please state your address.
32 Rockledge Place, Cedar Grove. I've personally played on the field at the high school, and I can tell you, it ain't much better than it was when I was there in 1979. And what you're asking the baseball players to do is to give up their home season, okay? And then when they come back, we get a drain pipe. It's not right. We get a drain pipe, football, lacrosse, soccer, to get a brand new state-of-the-art field. It's a slap in the face. The sacrifice you said that we all have to take, fine. We all get the sacrifice part of it. But our boys are coming home to a drain pipe. It just doesn't seem right. If they were coming back to a new field, I'll take you at your word, Mr. Featherman. You promised that this is going to be a good field.
Yes.
But I can tell you my son plays club ball right now all over the state. And I've seen some state-of-the-art fields in good towns, turf fields, and I think it was a complete lack of thought. Why wasn't the turf field extended from football right over to the baseball diamond? And I'm sorry for coming in late. I should have been here months ago. You're right, it's water under the bridge at this point. But you know what? It does show a lack of thought towards the baseball and towards these boys. This is their school, their field. You can delay this, sir. You can stop this. You can have them do the construction after June. Let them finish their season.
That's not going to happen.
But you could do it, and you have another football field in town. We don't have another baseball field in town. So, I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
I say something? I just want to say something. I just want to clarify one thing. I don't like, if you've listened to board meetings in the past, I'm all about perception. And the one thing that I don't want to put out there, I agree with all of your concerns. I hear them loud and clear. The one message that I don't want to put out there, though, is that the board did not, it looks like we didn't give any thought to the baseball team or anything like that. That was not the intent. And also, we tried to be transparent through the whole process before we even put the bond referendum out. We had meetings and we talked about the things that we were planning on doing. And to be honest with you, I would have loved to have heard this input a year and a half ago, because we put it out there, the items we were looking at, what we were looking to do in facility upgrades, from the bathrooms to the auditorium to the football field. And that is years of me being in this community as well and sitting on the board as long as I have. These facility upgrades are long overdue, long overdue. So I would have loved to hear that, because all I heard over the years was how bad our complex was, how embarrassing it was for other schools to come here, and they thought our football field was abandoned, and they thought we were like an abandoned school. I heard about the bathrooms. I heard about, when we had plays at the high school, how the sound system was horrible. I heard about all of those things. So as a board member, I can tell you that I try to incorporate everything possible into this bond referendum. And the one thing that I remember big time was the drainage, because I was there helping the resident that did the dugouts and painting the dugouts and staining them, whatever we did with Mr. DeFrancisci. So I was part of all that. So it's sort of, I have to say that together as a community, we might have dropped the ball on this part of, because again, I remember having conversations on the board, do they turf baseball fields? For those of you that know me, I'm not the biggest, I don't have a big athletic background. So, I ask those questions because I want to make sure that we do the right things. And I was told that baseball fields it's not common to have turf baseball fields, but to make sure that we have the drainage properly and, we took care of the infields and all of that. So the discussions were definitely had on our side. So that's why, again, I just want to make sure the perception is clear that the board tried to listen. And the logistics now are happening, and maybe that's where the frustration's coming in, because again, the board, when you hear how things are going to break down on the engineering side and how the contractors are going to do everything, until it starts to really happen, you don't envision really the impact. So I'm sitting here listening, and I hear the impact. But when you're planning, you don't realize the impact. But now I get it. We have seniors in the room, and it's important for them to play. I get it. I totally get it. And, but I also believe in our administration, and I have faith in them that they will do the right thing and they will come through as best as they can. But again, I just want to make sure the perception is clear that this board did everything we possibly could to listen to the community. And that's all I'm asking, is that you keep that in mind. Okay?
Question, moving
Yes.
forward. Are there financial considerations for sequestering another field, not as a favor, but paying for time on a larger town field? You've got Montclair, you've got Nutley, you've got Clifton. I know for a fact a lot of these towns will sell you a field for a nominal fee where you're guaranteed a certain time frame every week for, let's say, 3 to 4 hours, including lights. Does the board have money in there to do that? Or are they willing to explore that option? We did it with the club baseball team last year. We actually paid for reserve field that we didn't have to use, but it was readily available, and we're talking about fields that are conducive to what these young men would want to play on.
If you've, I don't know if the conversation's been had with the administration, but if they think it's feasible, they'll definitely bring it to us, and we're open to it. We're definitely open to it. Look what we had to do for graduation this year. We're having it at Montclair State. We looked at every avenue there as well. I mean, But the board is open. You know, we tried to keep it here in Cedar Grove. We looked at different options here to do it, and everyone's saying, why aren't we having it at Panther Park? We would love to have it at Panther Park graduation, but what happens if it rains? We don't have a plan B. So we just took the safest way to make sure we have a graduation plan for, you know, our seniors, and we believe we made a good decision there as well. So we're open to that. We are not shut down. For those of you that have been keeping, you know, in tune to what's going on, the board changed plans on the type of turf field we're using. That, again, came from input from the community. We are open. You know, when we hear the concerns, we try, and we're spending a little extra money. Of course, there's no proven history on any of the turf fields type of material, but the board listened to the community. They were worried about using crumb rubber, and we sat down, we got the engineers in, and we changed gears. And we're going with something that we feel is safer. We don't know the facts, but why do something if the community doesn't want it? That's what we're trying to do. So that's why if that's an option, we're definitely open. I don't know if that's something that they thought of. But, you know, again, we believe in our administration. If they think it's doable and we can find it in the budget, we are open to it. We're not we're not here to stop the process.
That's something that we can look into if there's fields that are maybe more conducive to rent. Is there?
Sure. I mean, look, we play one game a year at Montclair State, just as a for instance, in terms of what we're talking about with cost. It's $1,600 to play that game. It cost us $1,600 to play one game under the lights at Montclair State. So what you're asking the board to consider is not chump change. It's a lot of money that's not budgeted for. I mean, if the board is saying that they want us to take a look and get some prices, we can certainly do that. But that's certainly not on our first option of things, because it's a tremendous amount of money.
Well, and I don't know what it
But I don't
costs to
think
rent a
you're
field in
thinking Montclair
Montclair or
State.
Nutley.
No. Right. That's what yes.
Plenty of fields,
I mean, if you-
and we're talking $300-400 for the season.
Right.
Not even per game. But I really believe it's incumbent upon you,
We'll find out.
or as the board, working with the coaches to say, what's out there? These kids are gonna suffer, the seniors. They're gonna go to something and have nothing. You got freshmen coming in that have been paying a lot of money to train to play with these guys, and they're getting it. So.
If you have any information on that, would you be willing to help the administration? Thank you.
Well, look, and let's, for full disclosure here, we also have to transport the kids to and from. You know, look, we'll look at all those options, but I want the board's eyes to be open. This is not cheap. I'm just putting it out there. I mean, we're gonna bus these kids to and from 5 days a week for prep. You're talking thousands of dollars.
We're talking about for games, right?
Well, we're talking.
You're not talking about practices, right? You're talking about games.
If we have every
Games.
game away, though, we're busing them anyway.
We'll certainly look at it.
Well, why can't we, let's cost it out. Okay.
Well, practices are.
So we will look at, if you have any further information about fields that are available, if you provide it to Mr. Featherman or Mr. Gogarty, and we'll have them take a look at it and check out the cost, and if it's like Frank, Mr. Mandela said, if it's within our budget, you know, I mean, if we're having all our games away anyway and we're busing anyway, then there may not be any additional cost for the transportation. So we will look into it.
To that point, I was just gonna ask if other districts have, we talked a little bit about other towns, Ronan doesn't have all the games away, but they will at a certain point in time.
Well, Verona's delaying their baseball project until after the season's over. Guys, we've been down that road before, guys.
I just want everybody just to realize one thing, and I'm brand new here, so forgive me for anything, but we are talking about construction of schools here as well. We're not just talking about reconstruction of an actual field. This isn't just saying, hey, so-and-so is going to get this, we're getting nothing. We are looking into everything, and one of the reasons it's all happening at this time, it is because we're reconstructing the bathrooms in North End, South End, high school. We are doing other projects that are going into this. It's not just saying, stop everything, we're gonna wait, finish this, then we're gonna move on. It's all incorporated. So we can't just pull a plug on something and say, after a year and a half of planning, we understand. Listen, I hear you loud and clear. I don't want to be on a school bus every day either. But there are certain things that are connected to this, that it's not just connected to a sport, it's not just connected to a sport, but rather it's a whole community of everything, all of our schools. So I understand for the outgoing seniors, it's not a great benefit. You guys are going on to college and bigger and better things. But it is something that the board has considered for all the upcoming grades. And do realize something. You walk through this school alone, I guarantee you don't have a bathroom at home that's old as this. And your house could be built in 1900. So just realize that we hear you loud and clear, and we understand the inconvenience and everything else. But again, it's a complete project that we're working on. So we didn't do it intentionally to say, hey, you know what? This sport counts more than the other sport, so let's do this first and then this. Everything's budgeted together. So just same way we had to actually rip up certain sections of the high school before the school's even out, so that we can be on target, so that when September rolls around, everything's back to semi-normal. And be assured, you guys all know how construction works. Nothing's going to be normal in September. So that's number one. So I just want everybody to realize we didn't just pick a sport and say, you know what, this is one that doesn't count. It's just the fact that we're doing everything together, one budget, everything's being continuously done throughout the summer, spring, summer, and I'm sure fall as well. So I just want you guys all to realize that as well.
Yes. Just step up to the microphone so we can get you on going out to the community as well. State your
Joe
name and
Caboo,
address, please.
119 Lopez Road. Mr. Featherman, you made it clear this is a dead issue. We're not playing at Panther Park. I just want to bring up a big concern. I've been involved in the Cedar Grove Junior Baseball League, as many of the fathers. I'm not so sure that South End field is safe for us to be playing at. The right field has a sewer grate and a dip. Mr. Gogarty, I think he played there a lot of his whole life. So for the 6 years, I've been out there with backpacks, rakes, cat litter to try to get that field playable. I'm not so sure it's safe, that right field line with that sewer grate there. And a couple other questions too. And I guess a couple weeks, are all three teams, freshman, JV, and varsity, are going to be practicing on one field all at one time? The fence, is that not that it really matters to the team, but what type of fence is it? Does it have to, definitely we got to put a fence in, and is that covered under the cost of the renovations? So that's going to come out of where, tax money?
We're still looking at putting in that home run fence at the middle school. We're talking maybe $5,000-$6,000 for a 4-foot collapsible fence should the student athlete run into that. And that's a cost that we didn't initially have in our budget.
Well, if somebody could please take into serious consideration taking a look at that field, and let me know if I'm wrong here, but it's questionable.
Thank you.
How many home games do you guys play?
Split the season. 14,
About 15.
15?
Any further questions or comment? Okay, thank you all for your comments. It's not lost on deaf ears. We hear what you're saying, and we're going to do the best that we can to try to get everyone accommodated for the upcoming season. At this point, I'm going to make an announcement of the future meetings. We have a meeting coming up February 23rd, 2016. That's our next meeting here in the North End Media Center, 7 o'clock for executive session, 8 o'clock for the regular meeting. And then tentatively right now for March 8th, we may move that, but right now we have a March 8th meeting here, North End Media Center, 7 o'clock for executive session and 8 o'clock for the regular meeting. Any closing comments by the board? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
I don't know, idea.
Mrs. Burke?
Yes.
Mrs. Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Mandela?
Aye.
Mr. Pavulovich?
Yes.
And Mr. Sakala?
Yes, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.